and welcome to today's roadcast. Today I'm taking a walk from Ambergate northwards along the Derwent, and I'm currently passing through some rather delightful woods. This is in response to a couple of things. First of all, I thought it was a good idea just to break a pattern, so to speak, and go on a different route. Just try a different location, have a change of scene, literally a change of scene. And also, it's in response to I think she goes by the moniker Miss Scott on YouTube, if I've got that correct, or Scott Lynn, perhaps, Miss Scott Lynn. And she said how much she enjoyed going on these rambles with me, so to speak, through these, through the lovely English countryside. So, Miss Scott Lynn, this is certainly for you, because as you can see, we are in some very lush early spring countryside today, and you might say, well, it's classic English woodland. Public footpath to Alderwasley and to Wat Standwell. Well, we're going to head via Hag Lane and New Road. Yeah, that's where we're going, Wat Standwell, because at that point we get to cross the River Derwent. There's a bridge across the river, and from there we're going to go from Wat Standwell. We're going to climb up to Crich, C-R-I-C-H. So we're walking along the Derwent Valley northwards. We're going to cut across the Derwent because we're currently on the west bank at Wat Standwell, where there's a major bridge, and then we're going to climb all the way up to the War Memorial. I think it's for the Sherwood Foresters at Crich. And I've left it a bit late to come out today, and I'm not quite sure what form this roadcast is going to take, but I do hope to share with you some lovely countryside, some lovely English countryside on a beautiful spring day. Last week, and I need to reference this before I go any further, I put out a roadcast in which I spoke about a recent High Court ruling with regard to the Legal Services Act 2007. That High Court ruling, which was from the Court of Appeal and was known as the Mazur case, was very interesting, insofar as it appears to be suggesting that only authorised, well, it did suggest, the ruling was only authorised individuals could operate or conduct litigation under the Legal Services Act 2007, which had and I did say the ramifications of it were potentially massive. Anyway, it was appealed, and on the 31st of March this year, they basically they closed the loophole, if you can call it that. The legal game, by which I mean the legal system that's been tarmacked over the traditional 3,000 years of British jurisprudence, has operated consistently to that effect. If a loophole ever does come about, then the system will always find a method to protect what has become the common practice, to become what they may call the standard practice. So it's been determined that, and this is, they've attempted to clarify this, and I'm not entirely sure that it does make any difference. They've clarified it by stating that providing the individual, whether it's a paralegal or a so-called legal executive, is supervised by an authorised individual, it's okay for them to sign witness statements, claim forms and statutory instruments of all natures. But in reality, how many of these claims that are produced in what I described as a industrial scale operation, how many of them are truly supervised? For instance, how many solicitors would be prepared to put their name to a possession claim when the financial institution cannot verify its claim cannot verify that monies are actually owed. I mean, I've stated it before, I'll state it again. In reality, right, aside from all the issues regarding these, regarding what we'll call the Great British Mortgage Swindle, only an authorised agent of the bank, or an authorised officer of the bank, can verify and sign an affidavit stating that an individual owes them monies. Some paralegal operating in a firm like Dryden's Fairfax of Bradford, for instance, or Ascent Legal in Manchester, has no idea. They've no idea. They've not seen any proof that that individual owes monies. So in the event that such a paralegal, for instance, has signed a witness statement for and on behalf of a bank under the penalty of perjury, stating that monies are owed, well, and if it's proven, I think there was a case in Northern Ireland some years ago that demonstrated this, that only an agent or an officer of the bank can truly verify that monies are owed, not some lickspittle working as a paralegal, even if they're signing for and on behalf of a solicitor. So the paralegals, it would appear to me, are being used as shields, and the suggestion is behind them they are being supervised by a duly authorised, duly appointed and duly qualified solicitor. But is that truly the case? I don't know, but I doubt it. Because as I say, when it boils down to it, it doesn't matter who you are, what your qualifications are. You cannot sign a witness statement stating that monies are owed. You're not qualified to do so. Not only do you not have the legal acumen, you don't have the authority to do it. So it's all bullshit, and I did notice that one of the judges was a fellow called Vos, V-O-S, and he had come up in my Twitter feed with regard to an issue whereby a couple in Bradford had got bankrupted, and it seemed that, and they'd had all their possessions seized, they'd lost their business, the pensions and the rest of it, and he was covering it up. He claimed that a chance meeting had occurred between two solicitors. You know, again, let's just remind ourselves of the maxim that mankind will not be free until the last priest has been strangled with the entrails of the last lawyer. I stand by that, because it's all subterfuge, it's all obfuscation, it's all covering up, it's all Freemasonic handshakes, meetings in private rooms, unverified claims, and then when they get caught out, they just cover for each other. So all of it is dubious, to say the least. Anyway, to cut to the chase, this guy Vos had been caught lying by this fellow. I think his handle on Twitter is called Hunt and Gather. So he'd been challenged on his doorstep, not quite on his doorstep, but near his property. He has a massive property somewhere down south that is some 600 plus acres in size, and apparently, this is what the claim was, he's building an underground bunker there. And why are these various high net worth individuals, these wealthy individuals all over, building these underground bunkers? Yeah, so this guy, High Court Judge Vos, according to the little report, as it were, of him being challenged about a cover-up that he'd been involved in, well, he's actually resigned, or he retired before Christmas. So quite how and why he came to be sitting on this panel of judges in this appeal of the Mazur case, I don't know. I couldn't say. But it all fits in with the patterns that we're so familiar with. The deceit, the covering up of improprieties or criminality. Because remember, it's the white-collar criminals who are making the greatest profit from their crimes. Not your ordinary bloke. You know, long gone are the days when a bank robber would wear his wife's stocking over his head and he'd go and hold up the bank teller and order the bank teller to deposit all the cash in the sack. These days it's all done at the stroke of a pen, or should I say at the touch of a key on a keyboard. Anyway, so that loophole appears to have been closed. Although the point does remain about who is actually conducting the litigation in the background and how liable are they in the case of a fraud like the mortgage, like a mortgage possession claim, when the financial institution has sold on the mortgage deed. It's securitised the mortgage, so it's not the holder in due course of the mortgage note. It's committing a fraud at the land registry, and it's collecting payments for and on behalf of those investors in the securitisation package, otherwise known as money laundering. And that is a criminal activity. I'm just on the hillside in this, I suppose you'd call it a copse of birch trees. And as is often the case in Derbyshire, you sometimes come across these huge piles of stones. You know, and the uniformitarian narrative would have us believe that this, for instance, this piece here, with its straight edge, has been shaped by the forces of nature, by wind and ice and the attritional processes of glaciation, which of course upon closer examination doesn't make sense at all. You can see how early in the spring it is, but by the oak tree, which is just coming into bloom. Okay, so we're at Alderwasley, and this is the All Saints Church. As is often the case, a lot of churchyards have these ancient yew trees growing in the garden, which would suggest that in fact it could well be an ancient spiritual site, and the church would have come at a later date. It has got a spire. Let's go around and have a look. So at this point we've picked up the canal. As you can see there, we are 3 miles from Cromford and 2 miles from... Alright, so we're now leaving the canal and coming along this footpath, which is going to take us up to the Crich Memorial Tower. I don't know if this is doing it justice, but this is a delightful way. We've left the canal, we're climbing up this gorge here. Would you call it a gorge or a dale? So we've left the busy A6 behind, and we're now probably a third of the way up the ascent to Crich. You know, if the stones could tell stories. of all the happenings, of the people that have passed by down the centuries, even the millennia. What secrets would they have to tell us? You never know what you're going to discover. Like this quarry, for instance. Sometimes, when I come out to places like this, and I look back over my 23,000 days in this realm, and the things that I've done, the decisions I've made, the places where I've lived, the loves I've lost, you can't help but be tinged with a touch of regret, just the flavour of regret. And you know, the thoughts pop into your head along the lines of what if? What if I hadn't gone to the city? What if I'd done this instead of making that decision? But does it matter? I don't think anyone can go through their life and not make a mistake and not experience regret. But the regret's only a temporary state, because I'm soon drawn back into the here and now. The bluebells, for instance, the dandelions, the birds tweeting in the trees, the clarity of the sky today, the sheep, the lambs. It all draws you back to the here and now. And I always said that, you know, if I don't die, or should I say, if I don't pass away with a smile on my face, then something's gone wrong. But yeah, you just wonder what might have been, what could have been. I suppose any life worth its salt, any life of contemplation, is going to be replete with moments like that, moments of regret, I suppose moments of fancy. It's quite a gentle climb, because if you look at it from the other side of the valley, where we were previously, at well, just before we crossed the bridge, the Derwent at what Standwell, it did look like it was quite a steep climb, but it's actually a very gentle climb and absolutely delightful. I hope you're beginning to get a flavour of it. I hope something of the majesty and the beauty of it is being captured. We are roughly halfway around today's route. Approximately behind me you can see the other side of the Derwent Valley from whence we came. I've just heard above me the sound of one of the trams running at the Crich Tram Museum, which, as far as I know, opened on the 1st of April. It's been a gentle climb up here, up this dale, and out into these open fields. And all the while, there's a tranquility that is palpable, a peace that you can touch, that you can taste. As you can see, we're quite high up. Well, relatively speaking. I think we're about 390 metres, maybe 1,000 plus feet. And the landscape is marked, of course, by the limestone walling. And there, directly ahead, is the War Memorial, the Crich War Memorial. I don't know if you get an idea of the sheer scale of this, but it's massive. orchestral. There goes a double-decker tram. I mean, you've got to love the love and the dedication that's gone into creating something like the Crich tram museum. I mean, they've even dismantled and rebuilt a pub from Stoke-on-Trent. I don't know if you can see. I think it might be the end of the line there. And I forget where that bandstand might be from, somewhere in Birmingham. Anyway, just switching it back again, there's another view of the War Memorial, and here is a beacon tower. Okay, just another churchyard, this time St Mary's Church at Crich, and once again we have a grove of yew trees, which tends to signal that these sites are older than the founding of the church. The old Black Swan. Okay, so after a bit of prevarication, I am here at the Black Swan in Crich, having a pint. And from here it's downhill, relatively easy, 2 or 3 miles off, that's all. And this, I have to say, feels like a well-earned pint, so cheers. I was doing a bit more digging about who brought the appeal against the findings of the Mazur case, and it turns out it's the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives that brought the appeal. Who are they? Who are they to be making such an appeal anyway? And as I said before, who is Judge Vose and the others who allowed it to stand? You know, if there's one thing I do know about the legal system and those who inhabit it, it is this. They go to great lengths to cover up their criminality, to hide their improprieties, to obscure and conceal their various frauds, particularly the frauds of their clients. However, when it boils down to it, this may well bite them in the arse, on the simple grounds that, as I said earlier, it's invariably the case that a mortgage has been securitised by whichever financial institution is bringing the claim. That means the mortgage holder is not, say for example, the NatWest Bank PLC. They're acting as a collection agency for and on behalf of those investors who have bought into the securitisation package. Now, that failure to disclose to the land registry that they have sold on their equitable rights, shall we say, and are attempting to retain legal title at the land registry is, you could argue quite cogently, the very definition of money laundering. Now, if they're going to claim that a paralegal or a legal executive has the right to sign a possession claim on the basis for and on behalf of a financial institution, and it turns out that that financial institution is making a misrepresentation because they have sold on the mortgage, then that is the very definition of money laundering. It's a criminal offence. It's all a criminal racket anyway. And on that basis, the solicitor that is claiming to be supervising the paralegal or the legal executive is going to be liable. And then you wonder, well, is this why they never put their names to these claims in the first place? That they are using the paralegals and the legal executives as a kind of shield to cover up who's really behind it. You see what I mean? It's just another veil on top of the already existent frauds. Anyway, I am now, on another note, I am somewhat above the village of Crich, and we're heading down into back to Ambergate to pick up the motor. And there is a shot of whence we've came. In other words, that's to the north, and we came round the northernmost point of the Crich War Memorial. There's St. Peter's Church, and from there we went down to the Black Swan. And on we continue on what is still a most beautiful late afternoon. I think it's about 3:30, so it's still relatively early. Right, so here we are with another stretch of woodland, largely silver birch trees, and it's danced away right now, but you know, there's been at least 2 occasions today when I've been accompanied by a dancing butterfly. The silver birch is just coming into leaf, as you would expect. More curious boulders. Where are they from? To what do they once belong? Okay, so we're still descending through the woods, down once again to the Cromford Canal. They do have another worldly quality, these places. You know, some of it is down to the moss that clings everywhere. And another quality is the hand of industry, the hand of man, wherever you turn, has shaped, sometimes tamed the landscape. So as ever, you know, there's a lot of hidden gems around Derbyshire. It's a county that I've become very, very fond of down the years. There's always something new to uncover, something remarkable to discover. And at this time of the year, there's always a few bluebells to be had in the woods. Right, so we have emerged from the woods through that gate there, and we're now back on the Cromford Canal. We're going to go under it and head south along the canal. So this is Poyser's Bridge. Oh, lime was also something that was transported. Yeah, so this is Poyser's Bridge, and this must be 250, 260 years old. Anyway, we're dropping down here along this lane to Ambergate. Anyway, we are almost back where we started, namely on the other side of Ambergate, across the river. I guess it's probably been about a 9-mile ramble And like I say, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. It's been an interesting one. If you've enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, please share it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to drop me a line, you can leave a comment. You can also contact me via my website, roguemail.org. You can send me a message on Substack. In fact, if you're feeling particularly enamoured with my content, and I don't just do these roadcasts, if you haven't seen any of my stuff, I usually have an essay to accompany each roadcast, and I've got a plethora of work at my website which you can dig into. It's in various sections. I'm also on Facebook and X, two platforms where I am substantially throttled. And you can also find me on Rumble, should you frequent that platform, at Rogue Mail. So, and if you're feeling particularly appreciative, then please consider tipping me a few quid via the Buy Me a Coffee button. And so, until the next time, my friends, from Ambergate and the River Derwent, all that remains for me to say is, I'll catch you on the flip side. Cheers.